There will be some Datamined spoilers later in the video. The Dead Three are a trio of quasi-divine beings that at one point used to be powerful deities before dying during the Time of Troubles. Their return to godhood came about differently for each one, but Bane, Bhaal and Myrkul ultimately came back. However, during the Second Sundering, when the gods were ordered to withdraw their influence by the Great Ao, the three decided to stay behind in order to continue exerting their influence over mortals. It was this that brought them down to quasi-deities, able to walk among the people as if they were one and the same. In most of my theories, I've for the most part stuck with the idea that the Dead Three will be the main villains in Baldur's Gate 3, and there is good reason for that, given that Larian have said it in their own press release, and Sven has said that the Illithids will not be the main villains in an interview with Metro. In fact, Mike Merles, who works for Wizards of the Coast, and who used to work very closely with Larian in 2019, when Baldur's Gate 3 was first announced, has said the following in that same interview. We see Baldur's Gate as a city with a story. The history, so you have Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, and there was a tabletop product called Murder in Baldur's Gate. We see that all as part of one story, and so Descent into Avernus is the next chapter, and then the chapter after that will be Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 1, 2 and Murder in Baldur's Gate all have a strong focus on Bhaal and his return, which he achieves in Murder in Baldur's Gate. Descent into Avernus focuses on Elturel being dragged into the first layer of hell, Avernus. However, the front cover of the adventure has the symbol of Bhaal on it, and there are many references to Dead Three cultists in the adventure, particularly at the start. Now, if the Magic the Gathering cards are anything to go off, then it looks like the Undercity beneath Baldur's Gate will be where we finally confront the Dead Three, with this card here having the final point being the Throne of the Dead Three.
So the Dead Three now find themselves in that sort of position where they are in the mortal world and they're enacting their master plan.
Yes, Adam Lee, one of the lead designers on Descent into Avernus, does literally tell us on that video that the events in Baldur's Gate 3 are part of the Dead Three's master plan, but let's get into the details of what this might mean. First of all, we need to go to the cinematic trailer, specifically right at the start of it at this moment here. In an interview with VentureBeat, Adam Smith, one of the senior writers working on Baldur's Gate 3, had the following to say. One thing that you obviously know, knowing D&D very well, when you get to see the intro video again, you probably even noticed this, but the very first shot, do you remember what it is? It's a mural inside the Nautiloid. You'll see that it has a lot of background on what this particular Nautiloid is, but also the history of the Illithid Empire is told by the murals in the Nautiloid. You can find out a lot about it just through the visuals there. It's very deliberate that it's the first shot you see in the entire game, a history of the Illithids. Then, when you finish character creation and the Red Dragons attack, you see it shattered. That's very important. Maybe Adam Smith is secretly a GCSE English literature teacher.
And it's at this point that the shell starts to take on symbolic meaning.
In fact, this sentiment of the Illithids being almost something to feel sorry for is shared by Sven Vinke himself in his interview with Metro. Well, actually its geeky name is an Illithid, but you don't have to know anything about it to appreciate what it is, right? It's got tentacles, it's got psionic powers, and it also has a tragic story. It used to have an empire that spanned the astral plane, and it lost everything. And now it's hiding in the Underdark and being hunted by this race called the Githyanki, who actually make it their life's initiation rite to go kill one of these Mind Flayers, take the head and bring it to their queen. From these two statements, I get the feeling that the Mind Flayers in Baldur's Gate 3 are something to take advantage of. It's a race looking to fight back and take revenge, perhaps even to rebuild its lost empire, something which, according to Volo's Guide to Monsters, is part of the grand design. embedded in all elder brains. But as always, it might not be quite as simple as that. And this might be a vulnerability that the Dead 3 can use against the Mind Flayers. In that same interview with Metro, Mike Merles and Sven Vinke have the following to say. Yeah, understanding the motivations makes a big difference. They might be alien monstrosities, but you can understand them as characters. Why do they inflict these awful things on humans? Well, to them, humans are just these barely sentient apes. They don't think of them as anything else. And then to realise that they're slaves themselves. And that's the sort of thing that's buried in the lore, that they're actually a puppet of something else. Now here, they are likely referring to the Illithids being slaves to an elder brain. They're effectively a hive mind whilst under its yoke, and we have already seen Omelem speak about how he effectively set himself free from his elder brain. But when Mike described the Illithids as puppets, it got me thinking. In a puppet show, the audience can see the puppets dancing around on a little stage. They know the puppets are being controlled by someone who cannot be seen. They know that there is a puppet master, albeit they might have never seen him. If the puppet master was one day replaced, would anyone know? Perhaps the movements of the puppets change ever so slightly. The voices they once had seem slightly off compared to before. A few astute audience members might realise that something is different, but ultimately the puppet strings are still being pulled, and the show goes on. It might be that we are in the Dead 3's facade, their spectacular show. They have gone behind the curtain and replaced or convinced the puppet master to move his puppets to their tune. And whilst on the surface everything seems roughly in order, things have changed, and the show is quite different to what it was before. Thralls on board the Nautiloid now wear the symbol of the Dead 3, the tadpoles are tainted with nethery shadow magic, and the cult of the Absolute, which has some tadpoled leaders unaware of their affliction, seems to be made up of cells of 3 leaders. We have Minthara, Dror-Ragslin, and Priestess Gut, and then beyond them the 3 chosen. There is symbolism everywhere, hints at an influence coming from somewhere else. And to top it all off, they're not even aware they even have this tadpole in their head in the first place. There's no thrallish loyalty to Mind Flayers specifically. When Omelem asks whether his species is evolving, Blurg then questions the rate at which it is happening.
I have never seen anything like it, Blurg. Is my species evolving?
Perhaps, but at such an accelerated rate.
Which is a good point. Evolution doesn't happen that fast. Now, what I'm curious about is the awareness the Mind Flayers themselves have of the Dead 3's influence. There is no guarantee that old lore is relevant in 5th edition, but in the Lords of Madness from 2005, it is written that Mind Flayers often don't entirely understand why the Elder Brain instructs them to do certain things. Again, bringing us back to the idea of there being a hidden puppet master. The dead Mind Flayer in the Goblin Camp describes the Absolute as a circle of Mind Flayers, and also talks of a void in the sky with Nautiloids pouring through it, but does not reference Bane, Bhaal or Myrkul. Wherever this circle of Mind Flayers are, it could be that they truly believe that they are just doing classic Mind Flayer work, following an Elder Brain and furthering their grand design. The only sort of Illithid awareness we might be seeing of this is in the dreams that we have, where it seems like 2 beings are fighting for control of our mind, the true tadpole versus the shadow magic corrupting it and keeping it in stasis.
Beast, it wants her gone.
There are 3 Datamined lines that I would like to share with you, and these kind of prove the fact that the Dead 3 are behind basically everything. We were told through a vision that the only way to remove our parasite was to find and destroy the dark magic the clerics of the Dead 3 are using to enchant the tadpoles. Know that there are many who serve the Absolute even in death, waiting for the day when the grand design will come into play. Oh, I've heard it all, it's tieflings, they're fiend spawn after all, it's haberdashers. They're putting evil personality-altering enchantments on fedoras. It's a dark alliance of dead gods, perverting the Illithid's grand design to their own unholy ends. You read it in a tabloid somewhere and just liked the way it sounded. I suppose the burning question in all of this is, why? Why are the Dead Three doing all this? Why are they using the Mind Flayers? Bane, the de facto head of the Dead Three, is usually a man with a plan. Wait, what's happening?
It's Bane 2.0.
Oh yeah, this is Bane now. Anyway, so he's a man with a plan, and so there has to be reasoning behind this apparent madness. Well, to find the possible answer to that, we have to go back to 1989 and take a look at an adventure called Tantras, which was set during the Time of Troubles, an era when gods were banished to Toril in mortal forms after Bane and Myrkul attempted to steal the Tablets of Fate from the overgod Eo. In this adventure, Bane wishes to absorb the souls of all the assassins of Faerun. He would do this through the priests of Myrkul casting a mass death spell, whereby his own followers would then start a ceremony called the Stealing of the Souls. Once these souls had been stolen, they would then be transformed into something called the Black Brother, and Bane is quoted as saying the following: "The Brother is made of black glass, crafted by devils under my command. It bears a special and very old spell, the greatest of my working, the most perilous a god can ever undertake. It can swallow souls. They will give it life and energy and power. The souls must all be loyal to me, or at least my thinking, for they must align under my command. You must get those souls for me." Now, when Bane says the souls must all be loyal to me, or at least my thinking, well, that got me thinking. True souls. They are loyal to the Absolute, which is likely the Dead Three. If they all got mass seromorphed here and become Mind Flayers, then will their souls loyal to a deity that potentially doesn't exist be trapped somehow by this shadow magic? Will the Dead Three be able to use these souls to further their own godly ambitions, leaving the world in a state of carnage and in the slimy grasp of the Mind Flayers?
It is known, it was sort of established in a second edition product called the Alithiad, that Mind Flayers, when they consume humanoid brains, they get sensations from that. It's part of the joy of eating the brain for them, is they experience fragmentary memories of the creature that they're eating. And in some cases, those memories can stick with the Mind Flayer for a long time.
I think this bit of lore could be used and extrapolated by Larian. The tadpoles may very well be functioning as a sort of siphon, leading straight to the Dead Three, bringing along the soul and whatever else they need to facilitate their plan. Tantras offers inspiration on how and also why Bane needs souls to augment himself. What if that's all the true souls are? People that are loyal and to the Dead Three's thinking. I think we can put aside the idea of a huge construct like the Black Brother, but the aspect of the adventure that talks about the soul is something that I could see as having inspired the writers of Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I had some other stuff in my notes about time-travelling Netherese obelisks, but as I sit here writing the script for this at 2 AM, I thought, f*** that. And I've decided to wrap the video up here. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!